Hey, and welcome to IMPOSTRIX Podcast Live. We are getting started a little late, admittedly, but we're okay. We are okay. We figured it out. We are on YouTube. So if you are watching, thank you for hanging in there with us. This is a special episode of IMPOSTRIX Podcast. As you know, if you are a regular listener or watcher, I don't typically do this. I don't know the technology. Okay. Um, Today is a learning day. We are stretching. My name is Whitney Lee. I am your host, and I am here today with Dr. Ruth White. And so I'm going to read Ruth's bio because she is very esteemed. She is also one of my old professors when I was going to Seattle University doing social work. Um, so first, welcome, Ruth. Hey.
Hey, and by the way, all who don't know this girl, she's now a badass civil rights lawyer, podcast person. And so I'm very, very proud to have called her one of my students. So that's just
Thank you. Thank
all
you.
hail the queens, all hail the queens in this here podcast right now.
Absolutely. Okay, so Dr. White is a therapist, a coach, and a mental health expert who helps women recover from burnout and reclaim their energy and joy. A stress management specialist and DEIB consultant, which is now taboo. Ruth draws on both her academic expertise and lived experiences with mental illness to create healthier workplaces and more compassionate work cultures. She's taught social work across North America. As I mentioned, she was my professor. And she's the founder of Lumora Coaching, creator of flagship coaching programs, Glow Mode, Good as Hell, and Black and in Charge. She helps women build careers aligned with their values that honors their full selves and helps them prevent and recover from burnout without dimming their light or abandoning their ambition. And I'll say, Ruth this week sent me what will be a course for attorneys, right?
Yes.
Yes. So that'll be good. Watch out for that if you are a lawyer listening to this. Dr. White has written for Harvard Business Review, Fast Company, Tracy Anderson Magazine, and Modern Healthcare, and appears regularly as a mental health expert on KRON4 TV in the Bay Area. Off screen, you'll find her hiking, kayaking, or somewhere in or on water, as she is a strong swimmer, seasoned sailor, and multiple certified scuba. Okay. Okay,
Yes,
Dr.
dry
White.
suit, nitrox, and open water. But I don't like all that equipment. So next up is free diving. But yeah, I got certified in all of it.
Um, okay, speechless. So where do you want let's start here because I'm a water person too. Where is
Yes.
your favorite place to scuba?
Well, that's the thing. I learned scuba diving in Mukilteo, which is
Oh,
north of Seattle, in some cold water with brown things to look at in a dry suit that you got to press buttons so you don't. And I said, I'm really good at this. Well, the math part is hard. Let me just tell y'all the math part, especially if you're doing nitrox. So, nitrox is a combination of nitrogen and oxygen. It allows you to stay underwater a lot deeper. And I figured I'm getting trained. I'm going to do all of it. Just give me the math because I used to teach statistics. So I was doing all of that and then putting on all the gear. I wish I could show y'all a picture. Like the amount of gear I had on, stuff hanging everywhere, monitors. And I passed all the stuff and I said, I love being underwater, but if I need all of this gear and I have to be focusing on keeping myself alive, I'm gonna free dive, which is what I love doing anyway, is just being underwater and put on some goggles and snorkel and all the things. So I got certified and I didn't go anywhere with it. But I have snorkeled and sort of free dove in Belize because I used to take students from Seattle U on study abroad, and I did that 5 times. I took students and we would go to Shark Ray Alley, which is this part of I don't know if y'all know, but Belize has the second largest barrier reef in the world after Australia. And so we would go and snorkel with stingrays and nurse sharks. And I will just say it is the most beautiful thing. It is the most beautiful thing. I almost ended up razor cutting myself one time following an eagle ray. Like I just got caught up. This eagle ray came out of the sand and I was like, oh my God. And so, yeah, but it is awesome there for those people who do go to Belize. It's also a place you can get certified while you're there. So my goal is to, and I've snorkeled in Jamaica, but due to hurricanes and all that, we have a lot of bleached corals, so not a lot of just got caught up stuff to see. So yeah, water is if you're talking about burnout, water is medicine, right?
Yeah.
We're born in water, you know, in terms of that's where we were swimming around in liquid. It wasn't quite water in the uterus. And for those of you who don't know, I got a master's in maternal child health, so I could talk about this all day. But yeah, we come from water. So I always tell people it's a very calming place to be for almost all humans. So for all of you stressed out people, getting in a pool of water and you don't got to swim fast, you just got to keep moving. And it's easy on the body. You don't get a lot of injuries unless, of course, you're a super athlete doing it for the Olympics or something. So I often recommend swimming because it is buoyant, so your joints don't hurt.
Okay.
Especially as you get older, people like me where my knees are like, girl, what you thinking? So I always have a mission up here and my knees are always like, we're not, no.
Okay, I'm gonna try it. I have not scubaed. I'd snorkeled. The first time I snorkeled, I almost drowned because water goes in the top of the tube if you go underwater. So yeah,
yes,
but
because you have to slowly blow out. So if you're underwater when you're snorkeling, as long as you're slowly blowing out, then it keeps the water from coming in. But then you got to get back up soon because eventually you go run out of breath under there anyway. So.
Okay, tips from Dr. White, the certified everything. We'll say that. All right, so today's conversation, how this happened. So Ruth has been on IMPOSTRIX podcast before in episode 15, talking about how do we know when it's time to leave our jobs? Like, when is this job no longer serving me? And Ruth reached out because if you're a regular listener, you know that I shout her out all the time because the conversation that we had really has stuck in my brain as one of the conversations that keeps me moving forward in my own personal healing journey around grief at work and around who I am and how I show up at work and when I'm working with clients. So she reached out after hearing one of the shout outs and said, hey, we should talk about how people are dealing with like what's going on right now. Everything from the layoffs and the grants being revoked and the language that we can no longer use if we work in certain environments. There is so much going on that impacts Black women and others, but Black women specifically, as we'll talk about shortly, that we need to have a conversation about it. And if you've been listening to me and the show, you know that this year I don't care about other people, right? Like I care about me and I care about Black women. And so I have been very focused on the various types of ways that we can heal. And my head has been in the sand quite a bit around what is going on in the world around because I felt like it is too much. It is too much to bear. And so I am looking forward to this conversation. One, because it's helping me get my hand up out of the sand, but two, because as I've been working with people over the past several months in both the consulting role and also in my legal role, I'm working with people who are directly impacted by all of the mass layoffs, by Trump's policies, and I myself am impacted as well. So that is what we're going to talk about today. And I want to start by asking you, Dr. White, when we talk about burnout and burnout from our jobs, or even just burnout from life, because sometimes I just feel burnt out from life. What do we mean? What is burnout?
So we've been talking about burnout for a really, really long time. And it used to just be one of those sort of terms that we use that didn't have a clear definition. And in 2019, the World Health Organization decided to make it a condition. So it's not a medical condition in terms of the International Classification of Diseases. So you can't go get diagnosed, okay, in terms of from a doctor. There's no like little insurance code. However, it is considered an occupational phenomenon. So people talk about it, burnout from life, but usually when we talk about burnout in terms of clinically, it's an occupational phenomenon. So it's attached to a work thing. So let me read exactly what World Health Organization says, right? It says it is a syndrome. I'm sorry. What do you call that? The Apple universe that allows that to happen. So I am trying to get rid of that thing and I can't figure out how to turn off all the things at once. So anyway, so burnout is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress. Okay. So chronic workplace stress is the thing. And chronic means it goes on over a long period of time. Acute is like a kid running across the street, you slam on the brakes in your car, you're stressed in that moment, and then your body goes back to what we call homeostasis, whatever your baseline blood pressure, pulse, whatever that is, that would be acute. Chronic means there is no break. I'm just on all the time. I got, and with lawyers, how that started was because I have done work for a law firm where we talked about, it was my first Black Joy presentation was with a big law firm. And when I was thinking about this, I sent them something and they were like, can you do something specifically for lawyers? And of course, I know lawyers specifically, y'all have super heavy workloads, right? And you got to be billable hours, all of that. So there's 3 dimensions of this chronic workplace stress that is not successfully managed. 1, you start to feel energy depletion or exhaustion. You're just tired, right? I have a couple clients, because I have a therapy practice, but the coaching practice where it's not that they're lacking sleep. In fact, they're not even that busy. When you get to the burnout place, a lot of time it's not even that you're busy. You just tired all the time. You look at the screen and no words come and you just don't want to be there. Every morning just seems really, really heavy, right? You have increased mental distance from your job. So you're just like, yeah, I'm going to go in there, put in my time and do what I got to do. You have feelings of negativism or cynicism related to the job, right? Where the Gen Zers will say, it's all a scam, capitalism, blah, 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 right? That's what that's what cynicism. But I'm talking about the cynicism that just comes from, I don't know if I'm making a difference. Like, I just feel like I'm a cog in the machine. And I go to work every day. I move stuff around. I was talking to an accountant last night, and she just felt like I'm just here moving numbers from one part of an Excel spreadsheet to another. And I'm making this company all this money, but like, am I creating anything? What's the impact I'm leaving in the world? And I remember joking with her. I was like, girl, what the company you work for, I got their stock and I watched their stuff on TV. So yeah, you're doing stuff. Okay. But you know how that feels. And then the last is reduced professional efficacy. Now that's where your HR talent person management, whatever they are, starts to go, Whitney used to be a star performer. Whitney is slower. Whitney's stuff has mistakes. Whitney just don't seem to be on her game anymore, right? So it's specifically related to phenomenon in the occupational context.
Okay.
And according to WHO, they said it should not be applied to describe experiences in other areas of life.
Okay.
But again, that's the World Health Organization definition. And it's used a lot, it's quoted a lot, and that's why I decided to use it today, because people would probably say, well, the WHO says. So that's what the WHO says. Now, clinical stuff and real life often don't align, right? It's just like depression. For depression, clinically, DSM, you got to have it for 2 weeks continuously for it to be diagnosed depression, right? Now, that is not going to happen. You can feel depressed and not be clinically diagnosed depressed.
Right.
So yeah.
So when we're talking about the length of time that this is chronic as opposed to acute, what is that length of time? Because I'm thinking now about my colleagues, well, all of us, it's been 5 months since Trump has been in office.
Mhm.
And what we're talking about today, as far as what we're seeing, a lot of it has to do with policies that Trump has enacted, right? So I'm saying specifically, since Trump has been in office, it's been 5 months. Is that
Yeah.
long enough for people to experience burnout after they're dealing with 5 months of this bullshit?
Yes. So here's the other part, right? It doesn't have to even be that long. The thing of why people are feeling burnt out specifically now is because it's the roller coaster ride. Now, I love roller coasters, right? Scream my head off, but I love it because anybody who knows me know, we talked about the scuba, I like the hit of adrenaline. Okay. The ADD brain is all about give me a hit. But girl, we like to get off the roller coaster too. Do you see what I'm saying? You
Hmm.
hang on. Most roller coasters, I think, are around a 60-second to 90-second thing. You can't be on a roller coaster for 10 minutes.
Right.
Okay. Most of us can't. You're probably gonna throw up, right? You're probably like after a while, the thrill is gone. So, the excitement of like, oh, stuff's happening, which is what was happening with even the reps, right? They're like, we doing stuff, and then they're like, okay, we tired.
Hmm.
Because, right, it's like psych. Imagine every time your boss comes to you and they're like, Whitney, I have this project for you. This is what we're gonna be doing. That's Monday morning. Tuesday afternoon, she goes, girl, forget all of that. Here's a new thing. And can you do that for Wednesday? Wednesday comes, it's done. And then she says to you, you know what? Let's go back to the Monday thing. That's what we've been doing for 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whether you're a judge where you're like, dude, this is not in the Constitution, we're just gonna stop this, right? Or you're somebody who's getting laid off and they tell you we're gonna get laid off, and then they say, okay, no, not you. And then you get laid off and they're like, oh, come back. And then you're like, but wait, I was just trying to apply for another job. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to get that benefit. I'm not getting that benefit. You, you don't need months of that before your body starts to feel it. Your mind is just going, I can't. I mean, one of my clients in therapy, she is actually a crisis comms person for a big company here in Toronto. And her life is just like, she's like, I wake up in the morning because they do a lot of business with US partners. And she's like, I wake up in the morning, I don't know what I'm gonna have to say, what happened last night, and then everybody's just in crisis mode all the time. And I think it's Mandarin. When I did a crisis intervention workshop many, many years ago, literally decades ago, and we learned that the sign, the not sign, symbol for crisis and opportunity is the same. And one of the
Oh,
Mandarin or what's the other Chinese language, the big one? Um, anyway, it's
I know
one of
Mandarin. So,
major Chinese languages. It's crisis and opportunity is the same symbol because crisis allows you to figure out something new, to find out you're resilient, to come up with a solution, right? But it can be hard if that happens over and over, especially in a context of I am worried about my job because most of us are working because we need to work. Okay. I was reading about Bill Gates's daughter and she wants to start a business. And will she come to daddy for money? Because if she goes to daddy for money, he's going to have to he will want to, tell her what to do or whatever. And I was like, ain't she got her own money? Right. Because the rest of us, we don't got a job. We looking like, I be calling my sister being like, girl, we moving to New Jersey because I'm going to sit on your sofa for a minute. Right. I got laid off twice in 2 years. Now I'm the kind of person that's just like, well, what am I going to do? Right. I'm just going to have to get up and figure it out. And in fact, that's literally how I became a therapist.
mm,
I ended up in Toronto. Long story, lost both parents were ill, blah, blah, blah. I came here to say hi to my sister and somebody, fell in love, all that, take care of parents, blah, blah, blah. And I had to make money. I was like, okay, I'm looking for a job anywhere. I'm Canadian and I'm Canadian, I'm British and Jamaica. I got 3 passports. But I had my residence in the United States and I had an apartment in Oakland. So I was here, but I needed a job. But then I was like, okay, I will take a job at this point anywhere, right? So
Yeah.
I get like a teaching gig here in Toronto. I'm staying at my sister and then at my cousin's house. And then I was like, you know what? I've been a social worker since 1991.
Mhm.
And I had practiced social work in Canada, in the US, and in the UK. And I said, I think we can do something with this. And I'd been out of practice for a while in terms of face to face. So I got the supervision, got my registration, and started taking clients because I needed a job, right?
Right.
So that crisis brought me to this moment where I'm doing coaching and I'm a therapist. Now, 5 years ago, it was kind of something I thought about, like when I get older, this is what I'm going to do, right? But that crisis created that opportunity. But if I was in crisis all the time, right, I would be wanting to sleep. And to be honest, I was burnt out for a while. When I got my job that I have now, they were kind of like, why do you want to work here? You have consulting clients like JP Morgan and PwC or whatever. And I said, I need somewhere to go every day because both my parents had gotten sick. They died within 9 months of each other. They were in Jamaica. I was living in Oakland. My sister's in New Jersey. My other sister's in Toronto. And we were trying to manage all of this. In the meantime, I got laid off twice. So your brain literally is like, I can't think, and I just want to sit down and
Yeah.
stare at water that moves.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about like this moment. This moment is so much going on, and people's families are impacted in so many ways.
Yeah.
So many ways, right? People have relatives that are immigrants that they're worried about, not even just the fact that I'm talking legal immigrants, right? I have colleagues here in Toronto who have canceled conference presentations in the United States,
Mm.
right? They're Canadian, born Canadian. And they're like, I don't want to go and get caught up in some mess, so I'm not going to go. These, and you know, in academia, presentations are a lot. Like
Yeah.
it's important to your career. And people are deciding to do things that go against their career ambitions.
Yeah. I mean, and when you went through those three components that WHO talks about for burnout, I can think of people in my life and myself who have experienced, like we say, we're using the language that you use and not necessarily calling it burnout. We
Right.
don't really know what it is, even though we know the word burnout. But it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting because even, one of my friends, I get on group calls with her with a group of consultants, and she talks about like some of what you said around like, I don't even know if I'm making a difference. I don't even know. Like, you know, these are the words that she is saying. And it's dawning on me that like she's experiencing burnout, even though she's not even necessarily in a stable career, like, or she doesn't have a stable job. So it's very, very interesting and very affirming, I think, to hear this, and especially for me as someone who no longer works for somebody else. I work for myself, I have a legal practice, and I'm a consultant. And on the consulting side, the whole world is different. Over the past 5 months, the whole world has become different. And my capacity to deal with people's bullshit is different.
Yes, girl.
On the legal side, I am working with people who themselves are directly impacted, who are looking for me for estate planning because they've been federal workers their whole lives and now nothing is certain.
Mm-hmm.
And they no longer see estate planning as a luxury, but as a necessity to be able to protect what they have now. Um, so it's just been very interesting thinking about how all of this is coming together to create this space, and particularly for Black and Brown folks and for Black women. And so one of the things, in order to prepare for this conversation, I started doing some research on just what is going on as far as the federal government,
And I think
and the
it's not,
private sector.
it's not just the federal government. So
Right.
somebody posted something about labor statistics around Black women. Now, I'm always fact checking because sometimes people get it wrong and I'm a data person, right? But it turned out, so I went to the actual labor statistics, looked at the labor statistics since January, month by month. And it turns out Black women are the only one with the increased unemployment rate. Not by a lot, because the rate is low relatively to, like, other periods of time when we've had recessions, etc. So it's 4
Right.
points, but it went up, almost 10%, right? So what that means, I don't know. So I am just reporting from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I don't know. Nobody, when you get data like this, people theorize about why, but it's hard to know exactly what is going on, right? And so it's important to just know that that's one of the things that's going on.
Yeah. Well, and so as far as the federal government goes, and I know it's not just the feds, more than 260,000 people have lost their jobs. And the important history behind federal work is that 40% of that workforce are folks of color
Mhm,
and 19% are Black.
mhm,
Now, the US population is 13%. So we are overrepresented
mhm.
in the federal workforce.
Yes,
And
because our parents told us, go get that
mhm,
government job because of security,
yep,
more protection, better benefits. So I know several couples who are dual federal employees because they went there on purpose.
yeah, well, and especially for our parents' generation,
Yes,
that was a way to work. That was a step up into the middle class when the private sector was not hiring
yes,
because of systemic discrimination. And
yes.
so being a part of the federal workforce impacts Black families, in so many ways. And so now these layoffs and these constant up and downs and these I don't know if I am being laid off, or for contractors, consultants like myself who have contracts with the federal government,
Mhm.
and who now either our contracts are being revoked, they're being scrutinized for the language that we use, so now we are having to go in and change the language that we are using. I have talked to Black women consultants who have lost. One woman said she had 9 organizational clients and she lost 8 of them within 4 days. Um,
Yeah, that will
it,
do it.
what was
That's
that?
that's when you're like, I need some sort of support from either a or a can I have a thing or I go to sleep, right? Like you
Yeah,
at that point, you're just sitting there. That is a lot. And yeah, I mean, I'm a DEI consultant. That's not going to happen in the US right now, right? And a lot of people are rebranding what that is when you're talking
right.
about language. So shout out to Lily Jen because she has decided to rebrand. They've decided to rebrand the word DEI because Lily has been in this space a very, very long time. I know her through some other contacts in the DEI space, right? And they have now used the word fair, and I can't even remember what the things, I will go look it up right now. But where it's inclusion, it's about rights, right? It's all of the things, because now you can take those words, because really at the end of the day, all of that work is about human rights. That's all that work is. And I sit on the board of Product Work Canada, and we have been having these conversations. And our CEO came up with some terms that I am like, it's chef's kiss because it don't got all of the DI language.
Yeah.
All it's talking about is human rights, human rights. You're a lawyer,
Yep.
right? The way we challenge these things are in the courts because it's about rights. It's about legal protections. So at the end of the day, call it out because we can get caught up in the letters because everything now
Yeah.
just getting more letters. And I'm like, let's just, if we say inclusion, then we don't need all the letters because all the letters of the alphabets is included, right?
Yeah.
So that's what that conversation is about. But because people have a thing attached to those DEI letters, and in Canada they use EDI because again, everybody got their own order of how these things
Yes.
then it becomes this problem. In the EU, for example, I went on a course in the EU back in 2004, so 20 years ago in Brussels, was reading their stuff. All of their DEI stuff is in their EU charter. And it's
Mm.
so much about rights, to the point where they're like, even if you're discriminated against because you look like somebody who could be part of a marginalized group, right? And
Yeah.
so all of this work that people, are running away from is about rights. At the same time, though, how does that show up in places like the CDC? So my public health, I used to sit on the editorial board of the American Journal of Public Health, right? So I have a lot of people in the public health space. I used to be a public health person, do public health research, all the things. People are posting all the 404 error codes for websites.
Yeah.
My students from Seattle, who is a big AIDS researcher, we wrote a paper on AIDS and homophobia in Jamaica a long time ago. We did a chapter. He's in the AIDS space. You go to a lot of the websites, gone,
Yeah.
gone, poof, right? Minority health, gone. Stuff's just not there. So it's, I mean, people used to use that word erasure, Black erasure. I'm like literally all the erasing, right? It's not
Yeah.
even, not symbolic. This is not, it's gone, poof.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this list of words because I do want to talk about censorship and how women are navigating the self-censorship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because this list of words that I think most people are probably familiar with, that came out, I believe, from the Trump administration, although he says that he has not banned words. But there's like this ever growing list of words that are circulating, that are basically blacklisted. That if they appear in government websites, those websites are taken down. That if they appear in contracts for private contractors with the government, then they are kind of redlined. Maybe the contract is revoked. Maybe they give you opportunity to go and change it. That if they show up in the name of your business or in a policy, that it is going to have an impact on you. And some of them are so benign, like pregnant person. Instead of saying a pregnant woman, we might say a pregnant person. And that's a no no. Of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion all separately. Um, but even like climate change and trauma, women, females, minorities, indigenous
Yep.
communities,
Yep.
disability. And like it's astounding because what? Like
Yeah.
how
And I
how?
would say, about a pendulum, right? So when you teach statistics and stuff, we talk about the middle, right?
Mhm.
Because what happens is things swing and people go, and then it swings, and then there'll be a middle point. Because you're right. A lot of the inclusive words got a little crazy, right? So there was a moment in time where the list of genders had me and my friend laughing, right? And I have friends who were living in Chelsea, living in San Francisco, in all their full queerness, and was like, what is that? Right? Because I think it was JP Morgan or one of those had like a list of all the, right? We don't use any of them anymore because people were trying to name things that used to not be acknowledged, right?
Mhm.
People
Yeah.
want to be seen, people want to be heard, like the XYR and all of this stuff. uh, Nobody uses it, right? So what happens is when you're not in that group, but even in that group, right, where people are like, okay, what is that? So now we we've sorted out, we're like, okay, we have this non-binary term, we have this term, right? And people push back against certain things, right? And sometimes they push him back because I remember when gay marriage, right? Same-sex marriage. And people were acting as if the world was gonna come to an end if two people at the same time went and got married. Now ain't nobody give, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because it didn't have nothing to do with you. Nobody was trying to marry you. Okay. Uh they weren't infecting you with nothing. They were just trying to buy a house in the herbs and have a baby, right? And go to school and do their job, pay the mortgage, mow the lawn, wash their dishes. And so it's the same thing where people go, And then it's kind of like, oh yeah, those people, right? There was a time when Black and white people couldn't marry, okay? Because of all the things that would have gone wrong. There was, you know what I mean? So eventually what happens is all the places that we can't have Black people there because that, oh, women working outside the home, right? Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she couldn't get a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And she had all the qualifications, but she couldn't get a job. Now there's more female lawyers than male lawyers in terms of law schools and stuff, right? And these are jobs that we obviously couldn't get at first. So eventually what will happen is a lot of this will get normalized, because here's the thing. Humans don't like going back. They're not good at it, okay? And Americans in particular have very, very short memories, like very short memories. So in 5 years, people will probably forget all the stuff that's happening right now. That is the American, that's the optimism that is America. That's what makes America, that's how people can shop when they ain't got no money, right? People, they out there like, because I used to tell my students, they used to be like, wait, you want to hear the mind-blown thing? They would be going to do development work. I created a class in global development, Seattle U, right? And one day I said to the students, I said, you know, you're going to go help people that are richer than you. And they're looking at me, but Professor White, they're not richer than us. I was like, well, your net worth is negative.
Yeah.
That dude in Africa you trying to help, he owned his little plot of land, or whatever structure he's living in, he owns that. He has positive net worth. You have negative net worth. The only reason you live in the way you live in is because you can go borrow money to do it.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? So we have this optimism where what's shocking right now, they're like, people are still shopping even though they say they're worried about the economy. Costco pets, right? People are worried about their T-mule. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The optimism that is America is what makes people forget stuff. Because if you remember, you're like, right? And that's why people from the Depression who had long memories back in those days, they're like, if you had a grandmother that was in the Depression, you're a good saver, right?
Yeah.
They were saving everything, right? People who went through the war. I had a German teacher who went through the war. She was like, it was a dress, and then it was a skirt, and then it was an apron, and then we use it. They never threw out anything, right? Now we're at the point of just disposable stuff. We're just buying stuff because we're going on vacation, so we need 15 bathing suits, whatever. But even with all of that, this moment, just like the pandemic, is going to leave psychological scars.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to leave psychological scars. And I said that during the pandemic, and Facebook been reminding me about my posts, and my sister like, oh, girl. But I mean, because I'm a mental health person, I was like, we're sacrificing our mental health for our physical health. And all of it is one thing. You can't be healthy if your mind ain't right. Right? And your mind ain't right if your body ain't right.
And one of the things that I'm thinking about when I think about the psychological impact is the grief. The
Yes.
grief that we are experiencing, that folks are experiencing as they are going through this roller coaster, whether or not they're ultimately laid off, whether or not their, health insurance skyrockets because of cuts to subsidies, the not knowing and the grief that we're experiencing on this ride. And also, I don't know if maybe trust is the right word of, I'm thinking about people who have started projects, who have dedicated lives to this specific career path that they are now being told that this career path is made up, or that it's now somehow illegal or against public policy, or it's more expensive than it's worth. And that level of gaslighting is used all the time. I don't know if I want to use it, but for the lack of a better word, that level of gaslighting around like, this is important to me. For example, people at Department of Education. Trump's trying to basically, do away with Department of Ed, right? All of us know how important education is. Education is highly, highly, highly coveted. Black people were killed for becoming educated here in the United States. We have education disparity, all the things. Education means all the things, right? And we have people who are dedicating their life to making sure that education is accessible, to making sure that
So
education.
yes, and this is a good one for me because my sister and I have this conversation. So she is in education. She's an education advocate. She's done all the education things from third grade teacher to principal to starting a charter school to being a consultant to running right now Jersey Can, which is a nonprofit focused on getting all the best education for kids in the state of New Jersey. And it's part of a larger network. She's worked for education, Educators for Excellence in New York. So we have this conversation about federal versus state, right?
Mm,
So people don't know this, again, short history, but I used to teach social policy. I still do, I guess. Health, education, welfare used to be one thing, right? There was no health, right? They were all one thing. And then they
okay.
separated them out for good reason. But a lot of what happens in education specifically is at the state level, right? So one of the
Mhm.
things that we have to talk about is resilience. When these things start happening, is it's kind of like what I was talking about when I had to just pivot, right? Where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, right? And I even got into the official DEI space because when I got laid off from USC, because we were the first synchronous online program. And it started in 2012 as the first in probably the world. It's definitely the first in the United States. And I love stuff like that. In 2013, I joined. I was a digital nomad, taught online for many, many years. Now, when I started, we were the only one. When I got laid off, there were 70, I think, online social work
Mm,
programs. So
mm,
you don't need a econ degree to know, you're going to lose market share, right?
mhm,
So I get laid off, and a friend of mine, shout out to my girl Nena, she was like, "You're gonna go get a job in tech." I was like, "I'm gonna go get a job in what, girl? I've been a professor 20 plus years, tenure, whatever." I gave up tenure for that job at USC because I could travel the world and teach from China, right? And she said, "Nope, that's what you're going to do. You're going to go work in tech." Now, I knew the tech space. I moved from Toronto for tech in the 90s. I lived in the Silicon Valley and Seattle, worked in Silicon Valley. I worked for a huge organization, SRI. And I decided to go hard on applying for DI jobs in tech, right? Now, I was leaving professorhood. People don't think professors can do nothing. They just think all day. And to be honest, to be fair, some of my colleagues, that's what they want to do. They want to think and write all day, right? And nothing wrong with that because we need knowledge and I want to apply the knowledge they do research on.
right.
But in that moment, right, I went out and I remember one day she saw me applying for a job, I think at MIT. It was this DEI job. And she said, "I told you tech." And I was like, "Okay, ma'am," right? Got a job in tech, right? Now, you see what I'm saying? Like when I was a professor, I wasn't thinking about no job in tech. I got tenure. I had a job for life. Now, I'm a girl who takes chances. Everybody thought I was a mad person when I gave up tenure. And if I had kept tenure, I would have still had a job. But you know what? I was getting burnt out. So one of the reasons she had said to me to go to tech, she was like, you were frustrated by a lot of things. The program I was teaching in at the time, Wall Street Journal eventually called it was number one in making Black and brown women indebted for student loan debt.
Mm,
And it was always an issue for me because it was a very expensive program,
mhm,
$5,000 a year for an MSW, so 110,000 US dollars.
mm.
And you online and you in, I don't know, in West,
Kansas.
you're in Kentucky and you're not going to make that money back for a long time. And I had issues with it. And I would just say, so, we have these systems like you're talking about where, and the word gaslight is kind of interesting because we're told, go get this education, right? Now, Black women like to get educated,
Yes.
right? They like piece of paper on the wall, but sometimes the piece of paper on the wall is just a piece of paper on the wall, right? Like I know Black women who have said to me, I got this degree so people could call me doctor. I was like, girl, you went through all of that so somebody could call you doctor, right? Because that's not why, I mean, I don't judge people's motives, but understanding that like in social work, that is not gonna, there is no special thing if you're a therapist where you gonna make more money because you got doctor in front of your name. Okay, insurance companies do not care, right? If you go to UCSF Med School or you go to Columbia Med School, there is no code in the insurance billing for where you went to school. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like the validity that we were looking for, I read a lot of LinkedIn posts, and a lot of Black women just not feeling validated, but that's because you're looking for external validation with this piece
Right.
of paper that nobody can see, right? So Black women say things like, well, when you look at me, you don't know. Well, girl, when I look at a white dude, I don't know what he's doing either. He could be illiterate as whatever, or he could be running a major corporation. I can't tell either. Now, the assumptions are different, for sure, but you can't tell, right? But we're looking for that validation, and really, we need to just be validating ourselves, right? And so when you have a lot of degrees and then you go, well, I have 5 degrees. Well, honey, nobody pays you by degrees. That's not a thing. We don't get paid by degrees, right? We get paid by the profession that we're in, right? And so plumbers are millionaires, right? There was a Wall Street Journal article on plumbers and HVAC millionaires, right? But a lot of people don't want to be a tradesperson. Electricians, my sister just sent me a thing. Google is looking to hire 100,000 electricians. Do you hear me? Well, marketing people are getting laid off, coding people, software developers are getting laid off, right? So you're not getting gaslit. There is a seismic change going on in the workforce. I will also say with regard to DEI, and I'm gonna say it, it might come back to haunt me, but here we go. A lot of people who were doing the work did it out of passion, but they weren't trained for it. They weren't educated for it. And what happens when you do that? It means measurable outcomes, right?
Yeah.
You have the right intention, but you didn't have the skill, and you have some of the words. But if I asked you to give me a legal history of human rights and the Sindh case around, I mean, I know you know the Sindh case, right? Where the Indian man was trying to decide if he was white or not. They don't know that stuff. They
Turns
can't
out he's
tell me
not.
about,
Right.
exactly. They can't tell me about the Chinese Exclusion Act. They can't tell me about the difference between being on Ellis Island and being on Angel Island, right? So if you go into this space and you're there out of passion, but you're not, that you haven't learned how to evaluate a program, how to develop outcomes in a training. What happens is that people go, these people don't know what they're doing. They're just out here trying to get me feeling guilty and all the things, right? And guilt don't make nobody do anything. So you doing, like everybody know we got unconscious bias. Like most bias is conscious, though, I'm gonna tell you, right? Because it's conscious. I see Black women grabbing their purse in certain neighborhoods. I have friends going, you walking through Oakland at night? I say, well, who's out there? Black people. You scared of Black people, right? If it was a white person, right, they'd be like, what you say? But they behave the same way because it's conscious. I look at you and I'm consciously biasing myself against you, right? Now, I'm not saying unconscious bias doesn't exist, but I'm saying a lot of the bias we do in the world is conscious. People look at a white dude, you're a Black woman, you look at a white dude, you have all sorts of assumptions about that person, and you're doing it
I do.
just late, okay?
Yeah.
Now, we could talk about bias, but what are we going to do? What are the measurable outcomes? What are we trying to get at? Are we trying to get equality of opportunity, right? Are we trying to get access? What does me changing access look like? How do I get to that point? Do I understand human psychology, sociology, and anthropology in order to do this thing? So I think one of the things that's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of fallout, right? But at the end of the day, most organizations still want to have a diverse workforce. Call it what you will, take the D word out of it. They want people who can speak different languages. How are you going to have a global business without people who can speak different languages?
Right.
Right? We already know all the cases of all the ads that had language that people were like, clearly nobody in the room spoke language. And
I'm
it was
reminded of the Old Navy ad with the little Black kid with the monkey sweater.
Yeah, but even then, even the language translations, there's tons of examples where clearly they went to Google Translate or something and just translated a word that conceptually didn't translate in another language, right? So we need language and culture. I tell people there was no diversity person at Coca-Cola. When they came up with that ad, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And there were people from all over the world in a field singing that song. Do you know why? Because all Coca-Cola wanted to do was sell Coke to everybody.
Right. Right.
So they had everybody in the ad. And that was 1970 or whatever, 70 something, 80 something. It's a long time
It
ago.
was before me.
Exactly, right? It was a long time. And what happened? As a result, I don't care where you are in the world, honey. There is a Coke product sitting there. You can drive in little villages in the middle of Kenya. I took a bus from like Jinja, Uganda to Nairobi. And any little shop you had a Fanta and a Coca-Cola in it. Interestingly, you can get a Fanta and a Coke, you can't get the immunization, but that's another story. And that's why they started putting the immunizations on the Coke truck. No, literally, because Coke there, right? Because they wanted to sell things to everybody. Well, to do that, you need everybody to help you sell the things to everybody. So any business wants a diverse workforce. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
You know, what that look like, what you call it, how y'all get together when you get there, right? What does an inclusive policy look like, right? Even disability, come on, people, come on. You know, like, just because you deaf don't mean your brain don't work. Because you're blind don't mean your brain don't work. You know what I'm saying? Because your
And
legs don't work don't mean your brain don't work,
right.
right?
And
Walgreens,
I think
go ahead.
I think I brought up like education specifically, not because of, what how we hold education in regard, but because there are so many people, to make the point that there are so many people who have started
Yes,
something that the United States in our policy for decades have decided is important.
yes,
And we have spent our life feeling it's important. And now all of a sudden it's not important.
yes,
And that is
yes.
where I feel like, okay, how do people recover from that? How do people trust again that the next passion that they have, or the next job that they have, or the next project that they have, that they're putting their blood, sweat, and tears in, that they're getting burnt out from, is something that they can, I don't count on. I don't know if count on is something that's
That
still
is
going to
the
be
right word.
relevant.
No, that is the right word. So I tell people, you know what's happening? The Industrial Revolution, right? We've had the Industrial Revolution. We had a tech revolution. I'm 61 years old. So when tech was around, like I tell people, I actually helped test Wi-Fi. Okay. I've beta tested a lot of technology that's normal, right? Like recording TV. We were one of the first people to record a TV show and give feedback, right? I was one of the first on Gmail because I had friends at Google. They needed people to send emails to. Now, that change that kind of change always creates anxiety, right? So, for example, software developers, a lot of what they do, AI can do.
Mm-hmm.
So really well-educated, really, really smart people are now trying to figure, their job now is, how do I use AI to do the little other thing? So there are going to be shifts in what is valued, right? Think about it. Influencer is basically a marketer, right?
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Right.
we didn't have cameras on our phone. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and now it's like the number one occupation kids want to do is
Yeah.
influence,
Be a YouTuber.
be a YouTuber, all of these things. It's a huge shift. So there will always be shifts where the thing that you thought was the thing is no longer the thing.
Mm.
Doctors said, well, we can't video. Well, the pandemic came and everybody was like, oh, video. Now we can't get people to go back to real life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I think one of the big takeaways that I'm taking from this conversation, I mean, one is the power of the pivot. And I think, most people are on their way to figuring out what a pivot is for them. Like you were saying, you realize that you have this experience that something can be done with. So great. And that is important. And the other thing that I'm hearing as far as how to like breathe through this time is maybe finding solace and finding like groundedness in this idea that this is cyclical and we are in this part of the cycle. This is not the first time that this has happened. This won't be the last time that this has happened. Our parents, the people before us, have made it through. They have re-engineered their selves and their whatevers. They have capitalized, talking about capitalism, on the gaps that they saw or the opportunities that they saw through crisis, and we can do that too. Is
Yeah,
that, would you say, is that how you navigate this world right now?
it's always been. So I tell my
Mm,
students, sell your skills, not your paper.
mm,
Okay.
okay.
Because skills are transferable. Paper often isn't, right? I, I mean, at this point in my career, I've done a lot of things and I've been able, part of it is because I am a throw it against the wall and see what sticks kind of person.
Mm-hmm,
Right. So just this week alone, I was telling my sister, I'm like, all of me is happening in this week. I model, right?
mm-hmm,
In between, I used to like have a class, go do a photo shoot and come back, right? And I write. And next week, I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm a travel writer. It was a hobby of mine. And now people are like, hey, can you come on this press trip? And I'm like, oh, look at that, right? So I'm like, oh God, I'm sending emails to hotels and I'm sending emails to this and I'm doing this and I'm sending an invoice for a speaking gig and I'm doing all the things. I will say that when you are in the United States specifically, profession and identity are,
yes, absolutely.
and so when people lose that thing where they're like, what do I say when somebody asks me, what do I do? I have a client right now like that, doctorate, all of that, burnt out, hated his job in government. And then he said, we had this discussion this week, and it was like, okay, so when somebody asks me what I do, he's like, when I'm in the tech space, I can say, well, I quit my job for this thing. He said, but if I tell people that I quit this great government job, they're going to look at me like I'm nuts. I said, I gave up tenure, right? Now, the identity part, you have to be able to feel good about you.
Mm,
You. You without titles, you without degrees, you without being in first class. Everybody's like, soft life, I deserve luxury. I don't understand. What the hell does that mean? I deserve luck. No, you deserve safety, health, all of that, right? But deserving luxury, what is luxury anyway, right? Luxury is good sleep.
mm.
That's luxury. With you kid, I always say, I had a thing that used to say, the luxury of getting up late on a Monday morning was because I wasn't making a lot of money. So I didn't have no money because I was not making a lot of money as a professor. Let's be clear. This is not a money-making venture, this professorship thing. My sister was making more money as a third grade teacher in Atlanta than I was making as a professor at CLU. Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
God.
she had a Spelman degree in child development, and I had a PhD and three other. Okay. So I'm just saying that, right? But I had to feel good about me regardless of what's on my business card.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I have to feel good about me without me being on TV. Me being on TV is cool. Me being on this podcast is cool. But whether or not I'm on your podcast, I'm still going to feel good about myself.
Mm,
Right? And we live in a world right now which feeds into people's insecurities.
mhm.
I tell people Sephora is literally a temple to female insecurity. They make a ton of money off our insecurities because the $25 eyebrow pencil is going to be better than the $10 one I buy, right? As if I even need the eyebrow pencil, right? So we are living in a world where people feel they have to validate themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know, I just had a client last night. She literally went on her phone. She said, you know what? I'm just going to delete these social medias. I've had several clients who actively in a session when we're having, they're like, this thing is crazy. I've had Black women come to me and they're like, but I'm supposed to be doing more. I have a job. I am making six-figure. I'm 30. I have a husband. I'm making the six-figure job. I own a house. I'm 30. I'm a first-generation immigrant. Came here from Haiti, Nigeria, Jamaica, wherever. And they're telling me they feel like they're underachieving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah,
like, girl,
sit down. And I'll say, Dr. White, you texted me last night talking about I do this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, and I had to tell you to sit down.
yes,
Because this is this is us, right? And I think
yes.
my entire, but the fact of the matter is we are amazing. Like,
Here's, I will say this. I go through moments of activity, but girl, my daddy used to call me his lazy daughter because trust me, I know how to rest.
and we need to. And that has been like and this is a great way to wrap up this episode, I think, because that is the point of this season of IMPOSTRIX podcast is figuring out who we are, what is our identity, like
Yes.
who am I?
What are your
Not who
values?
does everybody else think that I am or think that I should be doing or who was I 10 years ago? Not any of that, but who am I now?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do I need now? What do I need in terms of rest? What do I need
Yes.
in terms of joy? What do I need
Yes.
in terms of boundaries? What do I need in terms of work? What do I need in terms of money? Do I need as much money as I thought I needed? Because if I don't, then maybe I don't need to be doing all the
Oh,
things.
listen, you preaching because I had an accountant in my office. Her homework after her first session with me was to actually run the numbers because she felt like she literally said to me, young girl, she's in her 20s, very well educated. And she said to me, this is how I'm trapped. This is how I'm going to have to spend the next 40 years of my life. I was like, girl, what are you talking about? What? I was like, 40 years of your life trapped in a job you don't want because you thought accounting was going to make it for. I said, first of all, every business needs an accountant. So you might be in a place that, like you feel like you have no meaning, but also you have numeracy skills. Those translate to data decision making, like all kinds of things. And rest. So I tell people writers block, the reason why writers have this reputation for sitting in bars and stuff is because they knew you can't write all day.
Mm-hmm.
The brain don't work like that. What we know about brain functions about 50 minutes optimal. After that, declining. So then you take a break and then you come back refreshed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a slide in a lot of my stress management things that says, if you manage the stress, you actually get more time. If you go to the gym, people say, I don't have any time to go to the gym. I say, if you go to the gym, you literally will get more time. You know why? Your brain will work better. It's sharper. You learn better. You hold on to stuff. You're more creative. All of that because you rested, right? Take that vacation and sit on the beach. Just look at the water. You don't have to be Action Jackson all the time. People are always like, I need a vacation from my vacation. And that's because
Nope.
I'm like, good. I do understand some people want to check the things off their list, but sometimes I just go somewhere to be somewhere. In fact, that's how I do a lot of things. I travel also to see people I love. I could have gone to so many more countries, but I go see my cousins because I got a lot of them. My mother was one of 14, so there's a lot of them. But I'll
Jesus.
be like, no, literally, I'll be like, let me go to North Carolina and go see my cousin. And I would stay with my cousin. I take the train and I go see another cousin in the other part of North Carolina. You see what I'm saying? Because I know that being around people I love is going to fill me up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup. Sleep, sleep, sleep. My next book is going to be about sleep, by the way. I've been writing it for a few years, but I've been getting a lot of sleep lately. So, but I've tried all the things because sleep used to be an issue for me. It still is a lifelong issue, but rest is so important. And this going away on a retreat for 4 days, that is not going to solve your rest problem. It's going to give you a
That's
reboot.
I was just gonna say that's an inside job. One of my I'm seeing a hormonal specialist now, and one of her prescriptions for
What?
me is, huh?
Oh, what did you say? What kind of
A
specialist?
hormonal
Okay.
specialist. Hormone specialist. I don't know what she's called. She's a functional medicine doctor. Anyways, one of her prescriptions for me is go to bed by 10.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Sunshine on your face, morning sunshine on your face. Huge. It
yeah,
sets the circadian rhythm. We're inside artificial light. We've so disconnected from nature. You use the word grounding. Now, I'm a barefoot in the grass kind of girl, and I let my daughter run around barefoot in the grass. Why? She always liked, because grass to me should be barefoot, and I'm a barefoot girl. Now I laugh my head off. One of my cousins, she just showed pictures of her little kids. She talking about grounding. I was like, girl, why we gotta brand this shit? We just supposed to be in nature. We supposed to be connected. We was never supposed to be in shoes on concrete. That's why people who walk barefoot actually have different foot structure.
yeah,
Right? Like people who wear flip-flops and stuff all the time, which is why they don't want to put on shoes because your feet get wider, they're actually more supportive. All of these things, right? Is that progress has made us think like our evolution, right? We're not supposed to live in, I lived on the 9th floor, I have a nice view of concrete buildings here in Toronto. That's not what my brain was supposed to. I miss my mountains of Oakland and Seattle. I miss the water, all of those things. But we have to get back to a place where we feed what feeds us, right?
yeah,
Fruits and vegetables. If your fridge ain't full, but your cupboards are full, you eating the wrong food,
yeah,
right? I literally have the tiniest cupboard. Like people used to be like, you have a daughter? Literally, it was pasta and noodles was the only thing that was in there because everything else was in the fridge, right? You can't, the Costco hauls, all of that. No, I go to a farmer's market. I buy from Black farmers right here in Toronto. They grow stuff right here in Toronto in greenhouses, and I go buy it from them, right? Fresh fruits and vegetables that feed you, feed your body, feed your brain, right? You got hypertension. My sister is one of the people, she's like, she hacked the hell out of no meds, right? Because we have a hypertension problem.
yeah,
I'm like, girl, I'm just taking my amlodipine. And she's like, no, I'm gonna drink the beet juice. I'm gonna go for a walk. I'm gonna lose my weight. Normalize her blood pressure.
yeah,
So you gotta take care of, you gotta feed soul, you gotta feed spirit, you gotta feed brain. Social support. One of the things I'm focusing on Lumora coaching is group coaching around like so that women have support from each other, right? I have one
yes,
called Black and in Charge, and it's for Black women leaders who want to lead. They're in white spaces. How do you take care of you when you walk into a room feeling like you don't belong there?
right.
Now I'm a Jamaican, so I always say we don't
I
understand,
know you belong everywhere.
right? We're like, we here. Why aren't you eating what we eat? Do you want some outfits? We will have you all dressed in green, yellow, red, and black, and whatever the hell we want, right? Now, but that means that's one less burden. And of course, it's because we're coming from a Black majority, all of those things, right? Nigerians, same, they're just loud, we're just in the space. But we have to take care of us,
Yeah,
right? Um, Bad as hell, that one, that good as hell is a 2 hour free workshop. It's free. And I'm doing it for young Black women who just want to like figure out who they are. How do they maintain who they are while doing work? I'll tell you a little bit about hair. I see a lot of posts on LinkedIn about hair. The way I wear my hair for 61 years, I've had natural hair. I didn't have a big chop. I had locks. I always said I was nappy before nappy was cool. I had locks in 1980 something and cut them off in 97. I had a mop, unruly mop, because there was no natural hair people when I was,
mm,
I had a mop for years. And I just go to the job interview because that was me. So you took me or you didn't take me. I didn't walk in thinking I had to straighten my hair. I have worn my hair straight maybe 10 times in 61 years. I have never
mm,
worn a wig twice. I've had my hair with extensions 3 times in my entire life. So all the narratives of saying, I'm not enough, I have to look this way, I have to do these things, that is not true. That is a belief. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
You know what Bob Marley sang it, but other people said it. You gotta
yep.
free this.
Emancipate yourself of mental
All
slavery. Hmm.
yes, right? And so a lot of the burdens are we put on ourselves.
Yeah, yep.
We think we have to have the paper to be legit. So the more of these things I have is like armor. I have 3 master's
Yep.
degrees, 4 doctorates, this, and then they didn't even validate me. I'm like, girl, because that is not what, that just says you went to school. And trust me, I know enough people that went to school that can't write a sentence very well, right? So we have to be able to find it here to love us as is. Because when you walk into a space and you're confident and you feel good about yourself and you feel like I've got it, even if they say no, you walk out and be like, yes is around the corner,
Yep. Mm.
right? One door closed, as Bob
Another
said,
one opens.
another one is open, right?
Yep.
And so it's about us feeling good about us, feeling like health is what we deserve, not wealth, health,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like that Chanel bag is not going to make you healthier. It's not going to make you live longer. And you're just signaling to people that you decided to spend your money on your Chanel bag. Because if I had Chanel bag money, I'd be at the top leather guy in Milan and he's going to hand make me a custom thing with no brand on it because it's just going to be for me. Because I
Hmm.
don't need other people to know that I swiped my Amex card to get this thing, right? So, but that's the signal,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The signal is my never full bag because I can afford one. I'm like, how much money you got in the bag? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and
No.
how we choose to spend, right? 4 million people might be in default as of May 4th
Yep.
in loans alone. Good debt and bad debt still gotta be repaid, right? We looking for prestige in our education. We spend a ton of money on it. If you're gonna be a social worker, it don't matter if you went to Columbia or Michigan. Zero
Does
difference.
not matter. Yep.
If mama got money and you can go to Columbia, girl, go. If you got a scholarship, girl, go. When Black women running around with 200 and some $1,000 in debt and they have a master's degree in social work, right? And that is because we felt like we needed to be validated.
Yeah.
So we need to take care of us in this moment. If we're able to sit still, do the yoga practice, get up in the morning, girl, you know I love a deep breath. All my classes start with breathing. I do a 4 square and a deep breath. All my
Mm.
coaching sessions start with breathing. Yeah, my entire class. Close your
I need to
eyes.
start. I need to start doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold that breath. I do that at the beginning of every class because I realized my students were coming in with anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
So it just brings us down, right? Centers us. So whenever we have crazy, can I also tell them, stay off the media, turn off the TV, read the news because you can go through the headlines. I'm like Wall Street Journal, go to, but
Yep. And you can skim too. Yep.
yes, but watching it literally, the T word can be used appropriately. That trauma word, if you keep watching people getting dragged off to Nicaragua, El Salvador, and watching war and protests, and we are humans. We can't take in all that negative stuff without it having an impact on us. And if you do that, watch some comedy. I'm a comedy junkie. I
Mhm.
literally sent one of my clients 3 comedy specials. She and Nija, I sent her all my Nija, Gina Yasheri and all that. I was like, girl, have a laugh with your siblings, right? And your sisters.
Mhm.
Because laughter it's like humor is everything, right? That's why Black people funny. That's why Irish people funny, right? Struggle,
Mhm.
like humor is a way of making things light. It's a way of telling the truth in a way that makes people hear it, right? It's a
Yeah.
lecture, it's all kind of teaching, right? It's shifting perspectives, it's bringing to light things. So we got to take care of ourselves through support, going to therapy if you need to go to therapy. Not everybody got to go, but girl,
Some of us do.
we need to be healed.
Absolutely.
And then some people just need coaching in that career mode. I have a special one for faculty. So I have one called Office Hours for the Soul because I know what it's like when you're trying to like write the articles and do things and not having the kind of work you want to do validated, because you might want to do
Right.
more work. You want to
Right.
work with African people and Black people and urban people and brown people. And right now, people are like, why? What about white people? It's like white people too, right?
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
here trying to do these things that are important to us. And so getting clear on who we are and the values that are important to us. If time is more important to you than money, right? My
Yeah.
daughter don't have a lot of money, but she happy because she working in plants all day. She send me videos of butterflies,
Mm.
mockingbirds. You know what I'm saying? Because she
Yeah.
loves plants. And she said, Mom, I was hating my job. And somebody came in the other day and they were like, you must love your job just being among plants all day. And she said, it made me think that I actually get to be among plants all day. And then I go home to my garden,
Mm.
right?
That's beautiful.
Right?
That's
But
beautiful. Yeah.
but she got a lot of joy,
Yeah.
and joy is important to her. Because I have friends make millions of dollars and they're like,
Joy's not that important. Yeah.
you're not
Thank
getting.
you. Thank you so much for this
Thank you
conversation,
for having
Ruth.
me, Whitney. I'm so proud of you, girl.
Thank you. We have done our first live successfully. So, Ruth, tell us where people can find you. Of course, I'm going to put all your information up, but tell us where people can find you.
Yes. So Lumora, Lumora coaching.com. LumoraCoaching.com. I have coaching programs for women of color. I have one called Glow Mode, which is all about burnout recovery and prevention.
Mm.
And, because we want to glow, we
Yep.
don't want to burn out,
And I
right?
do feel like you're glowing. You're on glow mode right now.
I'm trying to be, and to be honest, this week has been a lot. And I can't wait to go to Jamaica with my sister in 2 weeks. And we're going to go
Mm.
to Calabash, which is a huge literary festival that's held every 2 years. Um,
Mm.
Zadie Smith did the opening reading for this year.
Wow.
Yeah, they have all the big authors that's been
That's my
there. And
sister's favorite author.
oh, really? Yeah. And
Hmm.
they're like, it's in a little town called Treasure Beach on the south coast of Jamaica. It's a place I love. I've written travel articles around that, about that part, about Black River and these different places. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with my sister. We both have said, we ain't working.
Good.
I mean,
Good.
I'm working
Good.
copywriter, but I'm not working. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to all you sisters out there, take time to breathe every morning, get the sun in your face, go outside, be barefoot, indulge the crochet, knitting, whatever brings you joy. I have people that they bling coffee cups or whatever
Hmm.
brings you joy, fill the moments with that. Because the more moments you fill with that, the less moments you have to deal with the negativity and all of that. And get clear on your values and honor those. Honor who you
Yes.
are, not who your parents wanted you to be, who people expect you to be. You can't wear that, girl. You're a, excuse me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Mm.
here.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
girl.
you. Thank you. This has been a wonderful episode of IMPOSTRIX Podcast. If you are a first time listener, I invite you to listen to our 4 seasons worth of content. Season 4, though, is all about pouring into Black women. As I said earlier, it is about how we are going to take care of ourselves, to find ourselves, so that we can ground ourselves and be resilient when we need to be. So, with that being said, thank you again, Dr. White. Follow Impostrix Podcast at Impostrix Podcast on YouTube, also on social media, Instagram. And yeah, I look forward to our next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Whitney.